Hey, whipsnappers, this is Tortimer the Grey. Welcome back to another exciting episode of Pokemon Showdown Grey version. This week we are taking on the third Elite Four member and their acolytes, and we are in the Poison Gym. Not gym? That's not the right word, but the Elite Four Academy here is poison oriented, and so so we are starting off against Codeman, who always has the smaller team here. So I'll put him towards the beginning as we get going. His Crobat confuses Fumesy and throws up that Brave Bird, which does a ton of damage to the physically defensive Fumesy. Fights through the confusion though and is able to get the burn up on the Crobat. So that works out pretty nicely. And then we're going to switch into Blackavar, who is also going to take a critical hit Brave Bird, doing even more damage, and the recoil and the burn help, but Crobat's going to be able to finish off Blackavar without too much trouble before the burn finishes it off, and the first Elite Four Acolyte is defeated. So, thank you so much, Codeman, for coming back week after week. I appreciate you putting together a team, even if it's a small one, and in joining us. A lot of you guys participated this week. A lot of old but familiar faces are going to pop up this week, and so I'm going to just jump right into the next one because we got a lot to get through. But thank you so much, Codeman. I appreciate it. Here we go. Alrighty guys, battle number 2 up against David Khan, and you guys did pretty good this week, even with Poison type being a less ideal type, especially in the Ubers tier. If we'd had a Poison Gym or something, I think this might have been a little bit of a more difficult week. Like a Poison type week would have been more difficult if it was maybe in a lower tier, because I had access to some Pokemon that, like, I didn't change my team really this week, but you know, like Mega Kangaskhan and Rayquaza were definitely helpful for me this week, but I wouldn't have had access to those kinds of powerhouses were it not in the Ubers tier. So, I mean, you guys did great, though. I think I even had a couple of losses this week that you guys just, I mean, you guys made Poison work. And so David Khan's got his Mega Beedrill here, Beedrill Mining Company, which I think is hilarious. Fumesy's able to get the burn up on Beedrill there, and then the shiny Crobat's going to come in. Crobat is actually, well, I think technically it was a Golbat, but shiny Golbat, which I then later evolved into a Crobat, was the first shiny I ever found. So I've got a special place in my heart for shiny Crobat. So Fumesy gets that burn going. Navi switches into the Dark Pulse, which is going to resist. So that works out pretty nicely. Unfortunately, the Sludge Bomb's going to come, which is going to do hard damage to Navi, but she's going to be able to get the Psyshock up in time, which is going to take out the Crobat. And then Gengar's going to come in and finish off with the Sludge Wave. Then Theoden comes in, and Theoden's going to switch up that stance change, get the Shadow Sneak off, which is going to work out very nicely. We happen to survive the Dark Pulse from the Gengar, so that works out really well. Gengar. And then the Night Slash we're going to use then is going to be enough to finish off the Beedrill in combination with the Shadow Sneak, so that works out. And then Gengar switches in. And I don't know why I didn't go for Shadow Sneak there, honestly. I was even going to use Night Slash on the Gengar before, which obviously the Gengar was outspeeding, so I'm not sure why I did that, except for that I knew I had several Pokemon in the wing, so I was like, well, I didn't think maybe Shadow Sneak would defeat it. But anyway, so Eve comes in and finishes off there, so that worked out fairly nicely. So thank you so much, David Khan, for your battle this week. I appreciate the continued support on this series. We're getting close to the end, but I love seeing you guys continuing to stick with it, and that's awesome. So thank you so much, David Khan. Again, we've got like 10 more battles to get through, so we're going to jump into it so this episode's not 45 minutes long. Here we go! Alrighty guys, here we go up against Shunosaurus, or GBL4 Turtles as he's known on Showdown, and I lead off with Eve. Gengar comes out. We do have Scrappy on Eve, so a couple of you guys either had your Gengars up front or switched into Gengars this week, expecting the fake out, but we did have Scrappy going, so that allowed us to be able to still get a little bit of damage off there, and because I did try to avoid Mega Evolving on the first turn if a Gengar was on the team, so that I could make sure that Scrappy would hit, because once Kangaskhan obviously evolves or Mega Evolves, it turns into Parental Bond as its ability and not Scrappy. So Navi is in on Gengar, and she takes a Shadow Ball and then a Sludge Bomb, and she's gonna go down before getting to do anything. Eve switches in at that point, which forces out the Gengar, and Crobat's gonna come in. A lot of you guys expected the Sucker Punch, and I didn't get to do that with Eve a whole lot today, or this week rather, but Still, yeah, I would throw up the Sucker Punch, and you guys would switch into something else pretty consistently. So, Shinosaurus, of course, doing that as well. So my Mega goes down. Shendu's then going to come in and going to throw up that Dragon Ascent. So that flying move there, doing good work against the fighting type Toxicroak. But then Gengar's going to come in with that Dazzling Gleam and is going to finish off Shendu. Blackavar switches in at that point, going to throw up that Ice Beam, so the Crobat unfortunately switches right into an Ice Beam. But then Scolopede's going to come in and throw up the Earthquake, which is going to finish off Blackavar before he can do anything to the Centipede type Pokemon here. Fumzy, though, switches into an Aqua Tail. Going to be able to throw up that Will-O-Wisp, which is going to help us out with the damage that Scolipede is doing, a little bit at least. Mega Horn, again, not doing much. Fumzy would have resisted it anyway, but the burn definitely helping there, and he's able to finish off with a Flamethrower against the Poison Bug type. And then Gengar comes in with the Shadow Ball. Gonna get burned here just for some progressive damage. I know it doesn't do anything to affect his damage output. And then Fumzy's going to go down on the next turn, at which point Theoden's going to switch in, and we're going to throw up that stat change and just go for the Shadow Sneak, finger crossed, and thankfully Gengar is kind of a glass cannon, and so the Shadow Sneak enough to help us out there, but a very, very close battle there between us and Shinosaurus. So thank you so much, Shinosaurus, for coming out again this week. I've enjoyed having you in the mix the last several weeks that you've been joining the series, so thank you so much. And again, we got a lot to get through, so we're going to jump into the next one, but thanks again. Here we go. Alrighty, guys, up against Elite Four trainer Mac, and Mac leads off with the Cruel Tentacruel. And Mac didn't have a Gengar, so I went ahead and Mega Evolved on the first turn and got the extra Fake Out damage going there. Eve takes a Sludge Wave, but is able to finish off with the Earthquake without going beneath 50%, so that works out pretty nicely. I'll take it. Fumzy switches in on the Mega Venusaur, though, and gonna get put right to sleep, which is a bit disappointing. I don't actually have a lot on this team that can handle Mega Venusaur. This was one of the ones that I was most worried about, because we're in the Elite Four, I didn't really want to shake up the team at all. I didn't think that would be, I don't want to say appropriate, but because we talked about this in the first week, because we were in the Elite Four, I figured once I found something of an Uber's team that worked, I guess Shendu's Dragon Ascent can handle Mega Venusaur alright, but a couple of times you'll see me probably bring out Fumzy against it just to get the burn going and things like that. Shendu going down to the Drapion there, Blackavar coming in on Drapion, throwing up that Earth Power, but obviously behind the Protect, not going to do a whole lot. Yeah, so Elite Four, I just, whatever the type may be, I'm trying to not shake things up. I feel like last week I brought on Theoden, and I kind of liked, the balance of the team better. I switched Greninja out for Theoden because it was the first week of Ubers once we jumped into the Elite Four, and it was like, okay, this team wasn't really working, so I decided I'll let myself make a tweak, but I wasn't going to be like, oh, okay, so this next battle is Poison type, so everybody's going to be a Psychic or Ground type or something. I didn't want to go that far. So I didn't really tweak the team a whole lot, but I was worried a bit going in, like, okay, well, we've got Mega Venusaur. I had a couple of counters to him a little bit, but, most of that kind of stuff, he's pretty tanky, Mega Venusaur, so hard to really get at him. Eve switches in on the Scolipede there, who's already gotten a lot of setup going here. I kind of I made a mistake. I made a mistake in letting the Scolipede start setting up. I wasn't initially super worried about it, and so I let it get a couple of setups going, and then I switched Fumzy in, not on a kill, so he got attacked on his first time in. I think if we had gotten to bring Fumzy in fresh and have him be able to withstand one attack and then get the Will-O-Wisp up, he probably would have been able to survive to maybe get some of that off. But then the Scolipede baton passes into the Toxicroak, and unfortunately, Fumzy is already dead, and so the Toxicroak has all the stat changes, and even if we had burned Scolipede, I don't think the status effect comes with the baton pass, so Toxicroak still would have been mega powerful. So Mac is going to go ahead and rip through the few remaining Pokemon I have here with his super buffed Toxicroak. Sucker Punch finishing off Theoden there. and winning the battle. So yeah, I think I had a couple of losses this week. I don't think this was the only one, but definitely Mac kicked my butt there a little bit, ripping through half my team, and I shouldn't have let him get set up. I shouldn't have done that, but sometimes I just can't help myself. But anyway, thank you so much, Mac, for, you've been with us for a very, very long time, so thank you so much for participating week after week and constantly coming at me with fun teams. I appreciate it greatly, but let's check out the next one. Here we go. Alrighty guys, here we go up against Elite Four trainer Nougat, and Nougat also has a very interesting, unique team. Nougat likes to try to justify his team, so if he's using an off-type Pokemon, he likes to make sure that that off-type Pokemon has a reason to be there, and so like, you'll see some of the Pokemon in here. Well, he only really has Charizard and Slacking, I guess, that are off-type, but I think he was telling me afterwards that he had a justification for everybody, and he usually does. Usually I get a nice paragraph from Nougat on weeks like this, where he'll be like, alright, so this is what I was doing, and this is why it makes sense. But so he puts a lot of thought into it, which I appreciate. And Eve is going up against the Scolipede there, going for that Sucker Punch, but unfortunately Gengar is going to throw up the skill swap, so now I have been given the Levitate ability, which unfortunately doesn't work out super great for Gengar, because that means he's now no longer immune to my Earthquake there, and so that worked out pretty nicely. And I believe, because Eve comes out later in the battle, I think switching out actually fixes that anyway, so I get Parental Bond anyway, so probably not the best move there, but Blankavar able to come in on the Mega Charizard and finish it off with an Earth Power. Again, Charizard losing its immunity to ground by taking to the air, or becoming Dragon type and losing the Flying type, so that worked out for me for the most part. Eve comes in, be able to do a little damage to the Lazy King, but not a lot with that burn going on. Theoden is going to be going up against Ricardo here, throwing up that Sacred Sword, which is going to be enough to finish off the almost dead Poison Arceus, so that works out. But I want to get Theoden out of there because I'm pretty sure I'm going to need him for this Slacking in a bit. So Fumesy switches in, immune to the Earthquake, so that works out pretty nicely. We get the burn off on Drake, which is another one of Nougat's favorites, and so Drake is going to do some good damage to Fumesy, being a special attacker, although it gets the half special attack cut from Leaf Storm, so that's a bit disappointing for him. But Fumesy is going to go up against the Lazy King now here, take a Giga Impact and go down, so youch. Fumesy taking a hard hit there. At this point though, Theoden comes in, and Theoden has King Shield, so I expect that, I'm probably going to be able to use him to pretty easily take out the Slacking. And so I take a risk there staying in against the Scolipede, but I don't think with the burned Kangaskhan that I'm going to be able to do that otherwise. So I leave Theoden in, able to take out 2 of the 3 remaining Pokemon on Nougat's team, and then throw up the King Shield, which is going to both protect me from Lazy King's 1 turn of attack, and also get a half attack going there, so his future turns are going to be not as fruitful. And then I'm going to be able to, again, King Shield to avoid the attack here, getting down to 33% of his normal attack there, and then on the Truant ability, giving us a free turn to attack, so works out very nicely there, and Theoden able to finish off the Slacking for us, and half the team basically. So Theoden did good work this week. Thank you so much, Nougat, for participating and for putting together a cool team. Always can count on you to come up with an interesting combination there. So alrighty guys, we've got like 7 more battles to get to, I think, something, so we're gonna move on, but thank you so much, Nougat. I appreciate it greatly. Really, you guys coming back every week, supporting this series means a lot to me. So let's check out the next one who did that. Here we go. Alrighty guys, here we go up against Elite Four trainer Scad, and Scad leads off with a friend for Blackavard there, her Nidoqueen, and Nidoqueen's going to come out, and Eve is going to throw up that Earthquake, but the Crobat is going to be immune, and then the Brave Bird going to come do serious damage to Eve. Going to throw up that Return, and with the Parental Bond, going to be able to finish off, so Crobat's off the field at least. Mewtwo then comes in, and I throw up the Sucker Punch, able to do amazing damage to the Mewtwo there. Scad, to her merit, she did not get to test this team before we battled. She kind of threw it together and was like, I haven't really had much luck getting to be able to test this, but let's do it. And so Normally, she kicks my butt a lot, but we were able to get a couple of good hits off on Crobat and Mewtwo there. Blackavar then comes in on his girlfriend from Fumesy, but gets roared and Fumesy comes back out. Elizabeth now throwing up the Ice Beam against the physically defensive Fumesy, hoping to get some damage going there, or perhaps hoping that I was switching back into Nidoking. We continue to throw up that Flamethrower there, just doing some damage, figuring if we got the Roar in play, it's not really worth trying to bring somebody who's useful to me out necessarily. And so I switch out a Navi, I bring in Theoden as they bring in the Amoonguss. That Night Slash is going to land, not do a lot, and then Theoden's going to go to sleep. And so I believe... No, I leave Theoden in. I don't really have a good switch, although Rayquaza would probably be useful. I'm not sure why I didn't do that. I figured I'd probably need Rayquaza later, so I figured Theoden can probably handle this at this point. The one mistake I definitely had on Theoden is he doesn't have a Steel-type move, which we went up against a couple of fairies this week, especially like Xerneas here, where we just didn't have the ability to really do anything to it. Which was kind of a shock to me. I was like, oh yeah, we don't really have a fairy counter, at least on Theoden there. Obviously we have Blackavar and Fumesy, but both of them are relatively slow, and so they're usually able to be taken down before they're able to do much. Thankfully Navi's able to come in and withstand the Thunder and gonna be able to finish off the Xerneas, but then go down to the Gengar. Egon is awesome there. So I throw up the Earthquake and gonna go down. Unfortunately, Shendu's gonna go with it due to Destiny Bond. But Elizabeth is weakened, and so Theoden's gonna come in and withstand that Earth Power, which is amazing. Although he was in Shield form, so I think that probably helped. And then we're going to be able to throw up the King Shield here while I just kind of wait out the burn at this point, kind of let that tick away, although the Black Sludge is going to keep Elizabeth alive for a little bit longer, so we throw up the Shadow Snake, just letting that get her put out of her misery at that point. And then Peach back in and going to put Theoden back to sleep at that point, and we're down Amoonguss and Theoden there, and so we've got a bit of a stall thing happening here. We both have healing items on, neither of us are doing a lot of damage to the other one, and so, Peach is getting a little bit of help back each turn with the Giga Drain and the Black Sludge. Theoden's going to wake up and throw up that Shadow Sneak. Not going to do a whole lot. At this point, I'm just kind of testing the waters. I don't really have anything on Theoden that's going to be, real useful to me, so I'm figuring, okay, at this point, I decide, alright, Night Slash has a high critical hit chance, so I might as well just go with that and hope that we land the crit, because otherwise we really don't have a hope at this point, especially with getting put to sleep and Amoonguss being able to heal up without me doing damage. We don't really have a good chance of finishing this off with any other damaging move. We gotta hope for the crit in order to get us in the right place to where we might be able to get more damage and it's gonna be able to heal before our next attack. So we finally land the crit with the Night Slash on this turn there. Peach still able to heal up a decent amount, and Theoden gets put back to sleep. But we're both still fighting. We're both still going at it. I think that the crit definitely mattered in this instance. But Night Slash is a high critical hit move. That was part of my strategy. Is like, okay, Night Slash, we need the crit. We need to be able to finish this thing off in fewer hits than it's going to take for it to heal back up, because just between the Giga Drain and the Black Sludge, chipping away at it wasn't going to work, and finally we were able to get a final crit and finish off the Amoonguss there. So a very close battle. I think Scad definitely would have had me if she'd been able to test out her team even a little bit before we joined and did our battle, but glad to come out with the win there, and thank you so much, Scad, for the challenging battle. You always do challenge me, so I'm glad to have you back on board and able to count on that again. So thank you so much for joining me, Scad. Let's jump into the next one. We still have 5 battles to do, and we're at 20 minutes already. So you guys turned out like crazy this week. Let's check out the next one, shall we? Here we go. Alrighty guys, here we go up against Elite Four trainer Red Wolf NJW, which is another familiar face. So we had Scad come back this week, although I think Scad might have been here last week as well. But Red Wolf is somebody who'd been participating in this series for a good long while, and then disappeared due to school or work or whichever. The times didn't end up lining up anymore, and so he couldn't do that. But popped back up this week, which was awesome, and so it was good to see you, buddy. Good to have another battle with you. You always used to give me a challenge as well, and so I enjoy having you back on board here towards the end of the series. Nice to see some familiar faces popping back in again that maybe had to take a break. I mean, we've been running this series. Oh, I think this is the 28th episode of this series, which means it's been running for 28 weeks. So over like 6 months we've been doing this series, and so yeah, I mean, for those of you guys who have stuck with it, you know, for that long is awesome. But also, you know, not surprising that some people had to drop out at a certain point, but cool to see some of you guys popping back in. It was Red Wolf wasn't the only one who had that happen. I think spring breaks maybe are starting to pop up, and so that was helping some people be able to be around. And so either way, very cool to see you guys. I appreciated you guys popping back in when you were available. So Shendu comes in on the Kingler, forces it out, throws that extreme speed up at the Nidoking, and then earthquakes it into oblivion. I guess that is one change I made this week. I switched V-Create, the fire type move, on Shendu for earthquake. You guys all seem to think that at least changing moves and stuff around is something you can totally do in between Elite Four battles, so I didn't want to change out any Pokemon, but it did kind of seem to make sense that we could change up moves, so I had the Earthquake TM on me or something, I guess, and we were able to teach Shindu a new move. But going up against the Crobat here, the Dragon Ascent finishing off the Crobat. Crobats are strong. I've always liked Crobats, but man, you guys really wrecked some of my Pokemon with these Brave Birds and stuff this week, and so yeah, that was kind of surprising. I knew I liked Crobats, but to see them really wreck some house this week was fun because they're one of my favorite Pokemon. So yeah, anyway, there we go. So we won the battle against Red Wolf. Thank you so much, Red Wolf, for coming out this week. I truly appreciate seeing you back out in the field. Hopefully you'll be able to join us, and then we only got 2 weeks remaining in this series, so hopefully you'll be able to help us finish it out. But if not, I enjoyed seeing you back at least this week, and we got 4 more battles to get to, so we're going to jump right into it. But thanks again, Red Wolf. Alrighty, here we go. Alrighty guys, here we go up against Neurion, and he leads off with his Tentacruel. Has a Gengar on his team, so again, I didn't Mega Evolve yet. I decided to save that until the second turn, just in case he's switching to Gengar, expecting the Fake Out. So Gengar comes in. I don't really have anything for Gengar, especially because a lot this week, when I would try to use the Sucker Punch, you guys would predict it and switch out. Now, I probably could have done it there with Neurion as he went for the Nightshade as opposed to something else, but they're switching out. But either way, there it goes. I think a couple of times you guys, instead of switching out, you also would like throw up the Confuse Ray or something like that too. So that works. Navi comes in on the Venusaur, throws up that Psyshock. Navi, being a fairy type, actually ended up having a couple of moments of actual usefulness this week, which I was surprised. But I mean, she's always carried Psyshock on her. I don't know that I've had to use it a lot, but I didn't mess with her moves at all. She had a Psychic type move, and so I was like, well, you know what? In a couple of instances, maybe we can see if she'll do some work, and she actually managed to do a bit for us this week, so that was cool. Fumzy comes in on the Scolipede. I know that this thing's a powerhouse, so I want to make sure that I get it burned up good. Don't want it racking up too much power. And then we're able to get the Flamethrower up on it, which has historically, again, done good work for us up against the bug types, so that works out fairly nicely. Fumzy then gonna throw up some moves against the Nidoking there. Gonna get the Will-O-Wisp going because we get the Head Smash. Well, I throw it up just for progressive damage, but Nidoking uses Head Smash, which I believe is actually a physical move, so maybe this is a physically attacking Nidoking, although we get the Blizzard there, which misses. I switch Black Bar in because I figure, oh, Nidoking versus Nidoking, that'll be fun. We get lucky that the Blizzard misses, and we outspeed with the Ice Beam, so that works out. And then the Earth Power there finishes off the Arceus, and the Sucker Punch finishes off the Scolipede. And our UU Nidoking starter is able to finish off the run for us there. So, yeah, thank you so much, Neurion, for joining us this week, and you had a fun team put together there. I greatly appreciate it. Alrighty, so we got two more battles before the Elite Four leader. So let's jump into those, and then we'll see who our Elite Four member was for this week. Here we go. Alrighty, guys, here we go up against Elite Four trainer Yesh, and Yesh is another one of these guys who had been with us for a long time in this series, and then kind of had to disappear for, I believe, school. I think Yesh was the one who said it was his spring break, and so he was able to get back on and join us this week. So glad to have you, Yesh. You put together such a fun little team that I couldn't help but love your return to form here and joining us in the series. Again, it's cool to see old friends showing back up. So this was cool. These stupid Goomy, the special defenses on it's not Goomies, but it's Goodras, I guess maybe. Is intense, as that Ice Beam does almost nothing. Navi survives enough, though, to throw up a single Hyper Voice, which is going to be able to finish off the Goodra, so that works out very nicely for us, at least Navi doing some good work there, before she goes down to Cyanide the Gengar. And Yesh had a very fun naming scheme, so here he goes, throwing up the Will-O-Wisp as opposed to attacking, so again, Sucker Punch doing nothing, and then Eve getting her burn on, which doesn't help us at all. And unfortunately, Navi's already dead, so we can't even get a heal bell going, although even in the instances where I tried to get a heal bell going, she didn't survive long enough to actually do it. I don't think I actually successfully did that once this week. But Yesh has all kinds of poisons for the names of his Pokemon this week, which is cool. Rattata throws up the Endeavor after a hard hit from Shendu, but Shendu holds up with 1% HP and is able to finish off the Rattata. That thing could have been dangerous, but we were able to finish off. Although I guess Theoden probably could have easily handled the Rattata being immune to Endeavor. But Eve is going to go down to Ryson, the Poison Arceus. And then Fumsy switches in. We're going to throw up the Will-O-Wisp and land that on the Venusaur, so Arsenic's going to get burned there. And then going to Mega Evolve, throw the Sleep Powder up on Fumsy. When I forgot that Yesh had gotten the Sticky Webs up, so definitely went for the hazards here, slowing us down, getting the Stealth Rocks going, things like that. Sticky Webs is definitely an annoying one to deal with. And in some of my Pokemon, like, just some of the Pokemon on my team, Blackavar, Fumsy, I don't really have a lot of real fast Pokemon, and so I kind of, living on the edge as it is with them being useful, and so, yeah, slowing them down even more was definitely a challenge. Blackavar in against Ryson here, throwing up the Sucker Punch, knowing that we probably don't have a lot of time, and unfortunately we survived the hit. I was expecting to go down in that hit, so we wasted our time doing Sucker Punch as opposed to Earth Power, which would have probably finished off Ryson there for us. Going for the Thunder Wave there, which apparently gets through King Shield, so the more you know, I guess. And throw up that Shadow Snake again, does nothing. Theoden gonna go down to the Earthquake there. Earthquake! And then Fumsy switches in, Sleeping Fumsy. They misclick there with the Earthquake, and we get the burn off as Fumsy wakes up, so that works out fairly nicely. We get that going, and then Arsenic's going to come in. We throw up the Flamethrower there. Thick Fat going to help Arsenic out with that a bit, and I believe we get put back to sleep there, so that doesn't help our cause out a ton, but the Leech Seed coming out helps it even less. And so Fumsy is now going to be giving a little bit of health back to Arsenic as we nap away the battle. Fumsy thankfully waking up, the Sludge Bomb coming out. Leech Seed's going to put it out of range of the burn doing the kill, but if we'd been able to stay awake for one more turn, we might have been able to get it going. But as it is, going to get that Giga Drain going, get a little bit of health back. Leech Seed going to give even more. So Arsenic's going to stay out of range of the burn, finishing it off. And Fumsy is unfortunately going to go down to Leech Seed damage here in his sleep, finishing the battle. So another loss for us this week, but nothing to be ashamed of. Yesh had a great team between Shuckle and Rattata and some of these other Pokemon. A very interesting setup. So yeah, it was cool for me to go up against something as unique as that. And Yesh definitely earned it. A great return to the series, kicking our butt there a little bit. We got 2 more battles to get through, so hang in there, guys. I know the episode's getting long, but I hope you guys will hang in there. Let's check them out here. Thanks so much, Yesh, for popping in this week. If you're not able to join us the next 2 weeks because you're only here for spring break, It was great seeing you again, and I appreciate the support that you gave this series throughout its life cycle. Alrighty guys, 2 more battles. Here we go. Alrighty guys, last battle before we jump at the Elite Four leader, and Eve leading off here, not Mega Evolving, but switching out due to confusion. Fumesy then comes in like, oh, these Crobats are bosses, let me go ahead and get this Will-O-Wisp going, but Toxicroak switches into it instead, which another heavy physical attacker, so that works out for us at least, getting that going there. Shendu's going to take that Ice Punch though, unfortunately, but going to get the Dragon Ascent going here to finish off the Toxicroak, so at least that threat gets eliminated, so that works out fairly nicely. Gengar going to Mega Evolve and throw the Shadow Ball up at Shendu, finishing it off, no trouble at all. We've got shiny Mega Gengar there. We didn't Mega Evolve before, and so we were able to get the Fake Out off. And then we're able to get the Sucker Punch to actually land and take out the Mega Gengar, so that works out pretty well for us. Celine Eleanor is a new participant this week. This is actually Doorkeeper for Lethal, who you might have recognized from our comments recently, a fairly new person to the channel, but a regular commenter in their time here, so you probably recognize that name better than Celine Eleanor, but yeah, so that's who that is. Doorkeeper for Lethal has been commenting recently, so you might recognize that. They were on a different computer or different account or something, they said, and so they quickly threw together a team because they jumped on expecting to be able to battle, and then their team wasn't there, and so they threw this together really quickly, so probably not as balanced or as put together as they probably would have liked. I would like to call that out when people let me know, just because, you know, I don't want somebody to look bad if, you know, they're normally such a great battler and things like that. But Blackavar able to finish off the team there for us and leads us directly into our final battle of today with the Elite Four leaders. So even this far into the series, getting some fresh blood in here, always fun. So thank you so much for joining us, Doorkeeper for Lethal. I appreciate you taking the time to get on Showdown and figure it out and get in here and join us. So thank you so much. Alrighty guys, we got 1 battle left. Hang in there. Here we go. Alrighty guys, and here we are up against Elite Four member Espresso Cat, and ECat came at us with a very cool poison type team today, and we had a very nice battle, so I figured that ECat would be our poison type Elite Four member. A couple of, I tried to do with gym leaders, I tried to keep that unique, so we only, each person was only a leader of 1 gym, but it's hard sometimes to keep that running through, so I think ECat was a gym leader at one point, but also now is an Elite Four member, but Koga did it, so why can't ECat? Navi goes down to the Sludge Bomb from Dear Rosemary there. Shendu coming in to throw up the Dragon Ascent, gonna land on the Gengar as opposed to the Venusaur, but Gengars were definitely pretty much a pain in my butt this week, so not gonna complain about getting rid of it, even if it was accidental. Blackavar gonna be able to do decent damage to the Dragala. That's what that thing's called, right? I think so. Dragalge. But anyway, we're able to do decent damage to that before Nidoking goes down, and then Eve with the Sucker Punch is going to finish off the Dragalge, so that works out fairly nicely. We're now down 4-3, and Eve is hurt and burned, and so Mega Venusaur throws up that Leech Seed, and the burn's going to do hard work. I figure at this point, Eve can't come back in because of the spikes, so I might as well just let her do what she can while she can. So she's going to then go down to the Mega Venusaur. So 1 Mega taking out of the other seems appropriate, and Fumesy switches in, getting the burn going. So we get that progressive damage going at least. Shendu switches in, going to throw up the Dragon Ascent here again, hoping to finish off the Venusaur, which he, of course, is able to do, because Venusaur stays in and takes it like a champ. And then Shendu's going to switch out, Fumesy's going to come in. Again, these Crobats have been tough this week, so letting the hard-hitting Fumesy take those hits works out fairly well, although Fumesy is confused, so he's going to continuously hit himself and not throw up the Will-O-Wisp on the Crobat, so thankfully he survives through to the last second there and is able to land it, but Crobat comes out now and it's going to put Fumesy at a very bad spot, but the confusion finally breaks, and Fumesy is going to be able to get the pain split up, and then switch out into Theoden, knowing that Fumesy is not going to be able to take a whole lot more of this, so let's get him out of there in case we need him up against the Drapion. So we bring Theoden in, who's now taunted and confused, and so we get the stats change going, we get the Shadow Sneak up, and Crobat goes down. So that works out fairly nicely for us, at which point the Drapion switches in, the Aqua Tail lands and does good damage to Theoden. Theoden hitting itself in confusion as well, and then going down to the knockoff. So Drapion finishes off Theoden there, and Fumesy takes a hard hit. We get the Pain Split going, though, which is going to give Fumesy a little more longevity, and then he's going to be able to get the Will-O-Wisp up, which is going to start doing some progressive damage, as well as protect Fumesy from too powerful of moves from the Drapion, and we finally break the balloon, so in case Fumesy goes down, he can count on Rayquaza to be able to come in and finish off, but Fumesy, in his Fumesy fashion, is able to finish off the Drapion. So thank you so much, ECAT, for your awesome battle. I really appreciated the cool team you put together and the tough challenge you brought out this week. So you really did the Poison type proud, and is one of my favorite underappreciated types. It was cool to see you guys do such good work with Poison types this week. That really was fun for me to see, just as a Poison type enthusiast. I mean, I've got Fumesy and Blackvar, two Poison types, just regularly on my team, and so it's cool for me to see that. So awesome, bravo to you guys. Episode's been long, so we're gonna move on now, but thanks again, ECAT, for your awesome performance this week. Let's jump into the spreadsheet and see what type our last Elite Four member is going to be. Here we go. Alrighty guys, I'm going to try and make this quick because we really don't have a lot to cover, but we just need to quickly randomize what type we are going to have in next week's challenge. Now, again, this is random number generated, so it's just kind of up to the luck of the draw. We're going to randomize between 7 and 16, and if we get 8, 11, or 12, we will re-roll, and it comes up with 7. 7 is the number that generates. So, fighting type for our final Elite Four member. Again, just luck of the draw there, guys. I know some of you guys are pulling for Dragon or pulling for Dark, and that would have been cool. But our final Elite Four member, the random number generator has spoken, is going to be the fighting type. Now, I want to just take a brief moment. This doesn't mean that one of those other types doesn't have a chance. I know this episode's getting long, but I want to explain this very quickly. Next week, at the end of next week, we are going to roll for the champion, and the champion is going to be the anything goes tier, but what's going to happen with the champion is we're going to roll the encounter type, and the champion can either end up being our rival, and so then you guys can bring your rival teams into the anything goes tier and retweak them a little bit and come at me with your rival teams. It could also end up being, maybe the evil team, so kind of, maybe Giovanni makes it to, not Giovanni, but, the leader of the evil team ends up being the champion of the region or something. Or it could end up being an Elite Four / Gym member, and if we roll Elite Four / Gym, those are really going to be the only 3 options. The root trainer thing, I mean, I don't want it to be just some random person. It's either going to be our rival, the evil team leader, or it's going to be a gym person, If it's the gym person, then we will roll a type. And so the champion will then have a type like any does. I know generally speaking the champion is kind of a mix, but I figured for the purposes of this run it might be interesting if the champion also was a monotype type leader, but that's only a 1 in 3 chance, so if it's the evil team or the rival, you guys can put together whatever teams you want for that. If it ends up rolling the Elite Four / Gym slot, then we will roll for one of these, so you could potentially still see Dragon or Dark or one of those types pop up, and or you can just build your team around. If we get the evil team and you were pulling for Dark, then you can be the Dark evil team, whatever. I mean, whatever you guys want to do, but just want to run through that real quickly. Anyway, this episode is way too long. Thank you guys so much for watching. I've been Tortimer the Great, and you guys have been great. So put together your Ubers fighting teams, and we will finish off. In fact, this needs to be grayed out. So put together your Ubers fighting teams, and we will see you guys out there starting tomorrow morning. But yeah, looking forward to it, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I've been Tortimer the Great. You guys have been great. Make sure those likes, comments, subscriptions for me, guys. If you guys want to participate in the series, like Doorkeeper for Lethal jumped in just this week, all the details are in the description down below. Pokemon Showdown's free, no obligation. Jump on there, find me during the times listed in the description, and we'll duke it out. Thank you guys so much for watching. I've been Tortimer the Great, and you guys have been great. Have a good one.